This is an absolutely amazing stitch. I absolutely love it. It's one of my new favourites, and it's called the Wheat Stitch. There is another name, but I can't remember it right this moment in time. But this is absolutely so versatile. It's very thick. It makes a lovely, chunky, kind of cozy winter pattern. And I know it's dark yarn that I've used here, but I wanted to see what it would look like with this Aran yarn that I used. It looks good on both sides, but it's so good. The way that this frames it with the two ridges either side. So can you imagine if you just did one of these in amongst your project, and amongst other stitches, it would just pop, look really good. If you made a whole sweater or a blanket with this stitch, would look really cozy, really good. But also it would look great as a border. So it's so versatile and really not as hard as it looks. It's not easy, but it's a lot easier than it looks. So it's nice and simple. I will show you it in 1 second while I clear this away. I just want to let you know that if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, I've got lots of tutorials and other bits and pieces for you to have a little look at. So if you haven't done that already, please do. And if you follow me on TikTok, or if you're watching me on TikTok, don't forget to follow. Okay, so I'm going to clear all this away and I'll come back to you and show you how to do this amazing stitch. Okay, so I'm back. I'm using this. It's a DK weight. So for this particular swatch, I did about 40 stitches. So I'm going to do maybe a little bit less on this swatch. I used a 4.5mm crochet hook. If you wanted to get a bit more drape in it, you could go up a hook size. But I'm going to use a 4.5 for this project, and we can see how that will look with a little more drape. Also, with this one, I did have a loop, a little knot in my yarn. So that's not a join or anything, and it's just unfortunate. But hopefully we won't get that as we go along on this project. So this is a multiple of 2+1 chains. So you just need to make a slip knot, which you can do in your usual favourite way, and just crochet multiples of 2+1. So that's going to be a tad boring watching me, so I'm going to go ahead and do my total of 31 chain, and I'll come back to you once I've done that. Okay, so here we are. I have a swatch of 31. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a whole row of UK double crochets. So they're single crochets in the US. So in the second chain from the hook, we're just going to simply do that. So, and if you don't know how to do that, that's insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. We're just going to do that in every stitch along. Now for my little sample swatch that I did earlier, I went into the back bumps of my stitch, but I'm just going in the normal kind of top part for this just to show you. But if you wanted to on your project go in the back bumps, it's these bumps on the other side, which once you do the first one, it sits that way and they're fairly easy to get into. But hang on, I've got a loopier hook there, a loopier loop even. So yeah, just one in each. It's a bit boring to watch me do that. So I'm going to pause this video then, and I will catch up with you once I get to the end of my chain. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. I've done my very last stitch, so I'm going to turn my work. Okay, and now I'm going to make one chain and pull it low. Don't necessarily have to do that, but I'm not a turning chain person. Now, if you look at the top of your stitch, okay, we're looking at a V, and we want to go in the back loop only. So we're going to insert our hook into that back loop, pull up our loop, and finish our UK double crochet. Remember, if I say a UK double crochet, then we're talking about a single crochet in the US. but we're only going in that back loop, which is what creates that lovely ridge between our pattern. Okay, so nice and easy then, all the way to the end in the back loop only. And again, it will be a bit boring to watch me do this, so I will pause this video then and catch up with you once I get to the very end. Okay, so I've got all the way to the end. Okay, what I'm going to do now is going to chain one and pull it, cinch it right down so it's not really there. It just stops the yarn from travelling back and making the stitch tight. So the first stitch I'm going to do in both loops this time is a UK double crochet, and that's my first stitch. But I'm going to skip one, and then I'm going to place another in the next stitch. Don't want it too tight, because you need to now come back and work in this skipped stitch. We're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, but we're going to make it quite tall because it's got to stretch all the way to the net past the stitch. Yarn over, go back in and pull up another, and you want them both similar heights. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through 4, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. Then this is the stitch where we had the UK double crochet, and this was the skipped. So we're going to skip one and go into the next one and do a UK double crochet. Now we're going to go back and work in that skipped stitch exactly the same as before. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we should have 5 on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're going to yarn over and pull through 4 of them, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through the rest, the remaining 2. We're going to skip one, and then in the next one we're going to repeat the process and do our UK double. We're going to come back to the skipped stitch, and we're going to pull up twice, and then we're going to go through 4 and through 2, and that's the repeat all the way to the very last couple of stitches. Okay, do one more with you. Skip one and a UK double crochet in there, go back to the skip stitch, pull up our loop, and again pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 4, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2, and then skip one and skip one, and then we'll do our UK double, and then we'll do our extended puff stitch. And as you can see, we've got this really nice kind of slanted stitch appearing. Okay, so that is now our repeat all the way to the last few stitches. I'll pause the video then, and I will catch up with you once I get back all the way along here. Okay, so I'm almost at the end. I have 3 stitches left, so I'm going to do my pattern in these 2. And then in the last stitch, just as we began, we're going to make our UK double crochet. And that's looking good. Then we're going to turn our work. I'm going to do the same as before, cinch down, turn in chain. Now we're going to repeat this row, okay? So our first stitch is a UK double crochet. We're going to skip one and then do a UK double crochet. Obviously we don't want that tight. We're going to go back into that skip stitch here and pull up our loop, back in, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 4, last 2. So now they look a little different. You've got one that looks bigger than the other all the way along. So we're going to skip one and do the same thing. Just remember that they don't look the same anymore. They don't look as even as the previous row, but you can still tell your stitches. So you're going into this one, and then back to that skipped one, all the way again and to the end. And what we're doing now, if we stop and have a look, we're slanting our stitches back the other way, which is now creating this really cool kind of cable look V. Okay, I'm going to pause it then because it is just a repeat of this row, and I will catch up with you when I get to the end of the row. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end, and I'm going to make my last stitch in there. So now, if you think of these 2 rows as the beginning of the repeat, we'll obviously need these foundation rows. But these 2 rows, bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that. My other half was filling up a watering can, and it's an outside tap that's attached to the kitchen, which is where I am. Okay, so these 2 rows then form the other 2 rows of the repeat. So row 3, 4, 5 and 6 are the repeat rows. Now, did I do? No, I'm going to do my chain and cinch it right down. Now we're going to go in the back loops again and make a row of UK double crochets just with the back loops, because we need to make that really cool ridge again. Okay, so that's nice and simple all the way along. And you can do, if you can easily see if you turn the stitch where your back loop is, if you're a little confused about that. So all the way to the end, going in the back loop only with a UK double crochet. So I'm going to pause the video again, and I'll catch up with you at the end of the row. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. I've done my last stitch. Again, I'm doing my chain and cinch it down, and now I'm going to repeat that row for a second time. So I'm going to go in the back loops of my stitches and do a UK double crochet all the way along, just as we did in the last row. So nice and simple. Okay, so I will pause it then and come back to you when I get to the end of this row. Okay, so I've got to the end of the row, and so there we are. These 4 rows are now the repeat ongoing. So those of you who are happy with that can get on and do the rest. But if you want to stay with me and do some more so we can see how this works up, then we'll do the next row, which is a UK double crochet, skip 1, and then our UK double crochet in there. We're going to go back to the skipped stitch, and we're going to do the same as we did on our first row of the actual pattern. Skip 1 into the next one. I just think this is such a lovely stitch. Really, really like it. There's so many possibilities for it. Okay, so that's the one we went into with skipping. If you ever get confused as to which one it is that you should be going into, then it's easy just to pull this aside and you can see that that's the one you've worked. So then we just go back along here doing the same thing. Okay, skip 1, work into that one, come back for this one. All right then, so I'm going to pause the video and I will come back to you once I get to the end of this row. Okay, just a word that sometimes it gets a little difficult sometimes to see your last stitch, but just don't forget to go into that one, because that is how we start and we end our rows. So now you're turning it over, you can see this really lovely ridge appearing. It didn't look so great on this side because it's the opposite, it's an indentation, But now you can see how that's really starting to come through. Okay, so now we're going to do the same. We're going to repeat that row. So the first and last stitch, always a UK double crochet. Skip one and then one in the next. Oops, it's a bit of a long loop. Need it to be that big. Don't want it to be tight, but don't need it to be that long. Then go back to the previous skip stitch and do the same as we were doing before. Skip one, go into the next and go back to the skipped stitch. This is the row where it just looks different. I always find the ones with the nice big holes are the ones for the UK double crochet, and then when you look back you can see the stitch that you need to go into. Okay, so we're going to go all the way along just as before, and I'll pause it then and catch up with you once we get back to the end of the row. Okay, so it's really starting to look good now. I love this stitch. So this is the difference then with the Aran, same size crochet hook. It's still quite thick and chunky, but it's a lot more kind of drapey, if you like. Although this is still drapey because it is acrylic. It's a special DK from Stylecraft and special Aran. Special DK. Got it round the wrong way. But now we're getting to this stage. So we're now going to repeat those two rows of UK double crochets through the back loops only. Okay, so we'll do those nice and easy. So don't forget to go in the first stitch because well, it looked a little different, looked a little smaller. But we're going to go in each and every one all the way along for 2 rows. Okay, so I'm going to just pause this video and we're going to complete 2 rows, this one and the next, of UK double crochets going in the back loops only. But before you go, this does actually give me so many ideas of what we can make with this stitch because it's just so incredible and lends itself to just so much. So in the comment section, if you could, once we've got to the end of this, have a little look at it and see what things your imagination conjures up, and let me know in the comments what you think would look really good in this stitch, because I've got so many ideas just running through my brain. As soon as I saw this stitch, it was, wow, this would be good for this. I mentioned some already, and but there are so many more that I haven't. Oh, okay, got to the end of that row, so let's carry on. So yeah, if you could just a little indulge me and let me know what you guys think. It would look absolutely amazing in this stitch. Okay, so we'll pause it now and I'll catch up with you at the end of this row. Okay, so there we are. Now you can see that these 4 rows make the pattern. Those 2 first rows, they were setting it up, but these 2 rows, they do form the pattern. With this one, as I said, I went through the back bumps, but it really doesn't make much difference with this stitch because that first row is actually the wrong side of the work. Yeah, it looks better this side, doesn't it? Where you've got the ridge both sides. Obviously with this one you didn't because it was different. But there we are. That's what it looks like. I absolutely love it, as I said. So hope you do too. Don't forget to let me know what it is you would think this would be absolutely ideal for making. I'm going to leave it there because I think we've done this repeat twice now, and you should have that off pat. If not, you could always watch it again. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and this is a stitch tutorial with a little bit of a thought process thrown in, because I don't know about you, but sometimes when you see a stitch and you work it up, it doesn't look as good as you imagined it was going to look from the swatches you saw on the video that you saw it on. So this I have made with several different yarns and hook sizes. Now the first one that I did was this one, and it is made with a DK weight yarn and a size, oh where are we, 4.5mm crochet hook. And I made this with the Women's Institute yarn, which is a DK weight yarn. And to be honest with you, the yarn itself is quite soft. It's not as soft as Special DK by Stylecraft, but this texture does tend to roughen up this particular yarn. Not all yarns, but this one it does. So if you're kind of looking for a stitch for a scrubby, then this would be your ideal choice. Okay, so that was my first one, and then I thought, what would it look like with a variegated yarn? So I tried this one, and this is variegated. It is classed as a DK, but it is quite a thicker DK, and I used a 5mm crochet hook, and I think this has been the best result that I've had. So that was the one that I liked the most out of all of them, and I upped the size of the crochet hook from a 4.5 to a 5 to get this result. So I wanted to see what it would look like with chunky and Aran weight, but this is the Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek, which I have from the US, and I used a 5.5mm. It said use a 6, but I just felt that that would be too big really for that particular size of yarn. I've used this sort of size strand, and it's been classed as Aran or chunky, so a 5.5. The last one I've got to show you, I don't really like it very much, and it is a very thick chunky yarn, and I used a 6mm. So I'm going to show you how to do this stitch. It is very easy and really, really nice. I'm going to use another variegated yarn, but this one colour changes fairly quickly. The one I'm going to show you is a slower burner than that, but it's a beautiful yarn. And I'm going to use the Fairyland yarn, which I also have a few balls left in my shop. It's not the biggest strand in the world, so I'm going to use a 4.5mm crochet hook. So while I just clear all this away and get this set up on my Wool Genie, I'm just going to pause the video for a second, and if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and if you watch me on TikTok, please don't forget to follow. Okay, so I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, so I'm back. Now, as I said, I'm going to use a 4.5mm crochet hook. It's quite a thin DK strand, I believe, this one. It doesn't, but it has this kind of fluffy nap to it, so that does tend to bulk it up, but I don't think I want to go up to a 5 on this. So this is made with a multiple of 2 plus 1. Okay, so we're just going to do maybe a chain of 41. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video because it would be boring watching me do this, and I have to try and count in my head. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'll come back to you once I have my 41 chain. Okay, so I have 41 chain now, and the reason I've got 41 chain is because if I like this, I'm going to continue and make a scarf. If I don't, I will frog it somehow. Okay, so in the second chain from our hook, this is the first one, and into the second, I'm going to do a stacked double crochet UK or a stacked single crochet in the US. So I'm going to pull up a loop and pull through both of those, and in this vertical bar here, I'm just going to reinsert in that one only, yarn over and pull it up, yarn over and pull through both of those. Now this is in place of my UK double crochet for the first round. So I don't like to do turning chain, but these 2 loops here are the top of the stitch. So in every single stitch, or chain rather, all the way along, I'm going to place 1 UK treble, which is a double crochet in the US. So if I say treble crochet, you will know if you work in US terms that I do mean a US double crochet, okay? So I'm going to do 1 in every single stitch all the way to the end of the row, okay? Nice and simple. I'm going to pause this video then and catch up with you once I've got all of these done all the way along to the very end. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. So this would be a fairly wide scarf if I do that. Now, one thing I will say about this stitch, I have noticed from my swatches that the ones that look the nicest tend to be yarns that are not wound really tightly. So they're more open and loose. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1 and cinch it right down. And in my first stitch, I'm going to make a UK half treble, which is a half double in the US. Okay, so I've got 3 on my hook and I'll pull through all of them. Right, that is the only difference that in the stitches that I'm going to do. The first and last stitches will be the half treble. So if I say half treble, you know it's a half double if you follow in US terms. This, I believe, is called the Seedling Stitch, although it probably does have other names. So now we've got a row of UK treble crochets. We're going to front post and back post trebles in these. Obviously, that's front post and back post doubles if you are watching and following in US terms. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go round the back of this stitch and come out the other side. So we've got the whole stitch on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull the yarn through there. Okay, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And then we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to come from the back to the front and then around the stitch that way. And we're going to yarn over and pull through. Okay, pull it up a little ways and we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're back post and front posts, okay? And we're going to alternate those. So we're going to yarn over, go round the back of that stitch and out the other side, yarn over and pull up our loop, pull through 2 and through 2. And the next one, we're going to go from the back to the front and around the stitch and pull our yarn through and up a little ways. And we're going to pull through 2 and pull through 2. And this is how it's going to look. Okay, so the next one, we're going to go through it, around the back, and pull up our loop, and through 2, through 2. And the next one, from the back to the front, round that stitch, and pull up our loop, pull it up a little ways, and through 2, and through 2. Okay, so that is our repeat. And I want you to do that until you get to the last couple of stitches. All right, so I'll pause the video then and catch up with you once I've finished this row. Okay, so I've made it all the way along and I'm going to go into these 2 loops here of the top of my stack and I'm going to make my half treble crochet. Okay, this will keep our edges nice and neat because obviously we're dropping down, so we don't want a UK treble at the ends because that would be too big. Now we're going to turn our work, and when I do a UK treble crochet, I always do 1 chain and pull it low. Otherwise, if you didn't do that chain, you do get this funny little loop stick out, which isn't particularly nice. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the first stitch and make my UK half treble. Now we're looking at these stitches. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to back post, front post. Okay, so we're going to do the opposite to the stitch that's presenting. So we're going to yarn over, and because it's sticking at the front, we're going to go from behind and we're going to do our back post. Okay, so we're going to yarn over and pull through the two, through the two. Now this one's sticking behind, so we're going to front post that. I think I might have the stitches names around the wrong way. I always do, but whatever is showing, we're doing the opposite. This is sticking to the front, so we're going to the back, and we're going to go around that stitch and pull up our loop, but we need to raise it a little way, and we're going to go through two, through two. This one's sticking to the back, so we're going around the front side of our work, and we're going to go around that stitch and pull it forward. Pull up a little ways and complete the stitch. This one's in the front, so we're going to the back of the stitch, and we're going to pull our yarn through, pull it up a little way and complete the stitch. This one's at the back, so we're going to the front and we're pulling it forward. And that's what we're going to do all the way to the end of our row. Where this is sticking forward, we're going to the back of it. So it's just the opposite of the row we did before. Keeping your work nice and, I wouldn't say loose, but not tight. And we do need to pull those up a little way. Okay, nice and easy. It gets much easier if you're not familiar with this stitch. It does get a lot easier as you go through the work. We're just going to do the opposite of what we're looking at. So it's at the back, so we're pulling it to the front. That one's at the front, so we're pulling it to the back. I love this yarn, by the way. It's just lovely to work with. I did make a big blanket with it, and well, I just wanted something to do with the rest. But whether I will make this into a scarf or something else, I'm not quite sure yet. Okay, so I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to do that until I get to the very end, and I'll catch up with you when I've got a couple of stitches remaining. Okay, so I have a couple of stitches remaining, and sometimes it's difficult to see this one, but if you just tease it, you will get between it. It's very close to the end stitch, that's all. But just be careful that you don't miss it, and we obviously need to go in and do our UK half treble. So yeah, just be careful of that one at the end there. It does seem very close. The last stitch always does. So now we're going to turn our work. I'm going to do my chain and pull it low and do my UK half treble in that stitch, and we're going to repeat the first row. So we're going to the back of this stitch by going into it and out the other side, and we're going to do finish our stitch. Easier said than done. Here we are. And now this one's sticking at the front, so we're going to go behind it. And we're doing exactly the same as before, where if it's sticking to the front, we are going behind it. If it's sticking behind, then we're going to go to the front of it. And what am I doing? Didn't pull the yarn, did I? That's why it didn't look right. I knew it didn't look right. Okay, so this one's sticking at the front, so we're going behind. We're making our yarn through that one. And this one is at the back, so we're bringing it forward. So basically, both rows are doing the same thing. It's just that you will start with a different one each time. So the first row you started, and the third row is the same. But you're basically doing the same thing on each row now. You're doing the opposite of the stitch that is presenting itself to you. So it's nice and easy to remember, and that's what it's looking like. I really like this stitch, I must say. Better though in a kind of a variegated yarn, although this is showing really mostly at the moment as just peach colour. There is that kind of white bit in there, so I suppose it is still variegated. It takes a while to change colour, this yarn. It's self-striping rather than variegated. I know that they're all variegated, but it's not a quick colour change. It's fairly long, I guess. There's a few miles of it yet to go. So that's what we're doing to the end of this row, exactly the same as before. And I will pause this video then and catch up with you once we get to the end of the row. Okay, so I'm almost at the end and I have my last one again. Remember, they are quite close to the very last stitch, those ones, and it's easier to see that way round, I have to say, than when it's at the back. So basically, where you have a front post, you're back posting, and where you have a back post, you're front posting. So we'll do a couple more rows. Okay, so this next one, we are repeating row 2. So it's only the only difference is the way we start. Okay, so this time around we're going to the back of it because it's sticking forward and we're pulling up. So that's the only thing that will change, is you will start with a different stitch, rows 1 and rows 2, but you still, where you have a front post, you back post, and where you have a back post, you front post. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more rows to show you. So I will now pause this video and do those couple of rows, because it might be a bit boring just to watch me doing the same thing over and over. And we'll come back and we'll have a look at it, and we'll again have I'm stuck. My hook got stuck. So I'm going to do a couple rows then, and I will come back and show you how this works up, because you need to see a bit of an expanse of it to see how it's working up. Like with this one is still my favourite one of them all. I just like the way this yarn, the colours and the yarn actually made the stitches look. It's a good yarn for this stitch, and that was the Emotions, which incidentally I've still got a fair bit in my shop, although some of the colours have sold out. Okay, there is a link in the description box to my shop and a voucher code. I'm going to pause it then. I'll come back to you once I've done a few more rows and we'll have a look at what it's like with this yarn. Okay, so I've done some more rows, and as you can see, my colour is now starting to change from to a cooler colour. I love this yarn. That will be bringing in the lilac, and then it will be all these colours. So I like it in this particular yarn, but this is still my favourite. I think this yarn really did show it in its glory. That one is still my favourite. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do this bar stitch, which I really love. And I did the bar stitch as part of my recent crochet along, the picnic blanket, and I loved that stitch, so I decided I would do a standalone kind of stitch tutorial. And this is how it looks with acrylic yarn, and if you change colour every 2 rows you will get this effect. But if you carry on and do it with a variegated yarn, then you'll get this kind of effect. I love this, but I really love it with cotton yarn. So I'm going to show you now how to do this with 2 different colours in cotton yarn. I'm not going to use a variegated, I'll just use 2 colours, and you can see how that works up. So you can see it's starting to curl here. I used a 4.5mm crochet hook with these yarns, and that's usually fine, but I'm wondering if I shouldn't have just gone up to a 5 for this, because as you can see it is getting curly. But I think that's the 2 rows at the bottom were UK double crochets, which are single crochets in the US, so that could have been the reason. So all of the yarn that you've just seen and all of my accessories and hook etc In the description box you'll find where you can get those, including the wall genie, which I have here. I've got 2 colours set up on these wall genies. So to get started then, this is just a DK weight cotton, and I'm going to make a slip knot in any way. You just do that any way you normally would. That's my way. And we want multiples of 3 for this stitch. So we want multiples of 3 plus 3. So you might think, why don't you just do multiples of 3? So you want multiples of 3 for the length that you want it. And then you need to add 3 for a stitch at the start, a stitch at the end, and a turning chain. Okay, so I'm going to do my multiples now. So to chain, obviously we yarn over and we pull through the loop on our hook, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, simple as that. I'm going to pause it then, and I'll come back to you once I have the length of my swatch. Okay, so I've got 24. All right, so if I wanted this to be the width of what I was making, I'd make another 3 just to make the stitch work out. Okay, so in the second one from the hook, obviously the loop on the hook doesn't count. That's your first stitch. This is the second. I'm going to do a UK double crochet by yarning over and pulling up the loop, yarning over and pulling through both of those. I'll show you once more. We go into the chain and yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through both of those. So we're going to do that in every single chain all the way to the end. Nice and easy. Okay, so that will be a little bit boring to watch me going all the way to the end. So I shall pause the video and I'll catch up with you once we have done all of our stitches all the way along. Okay, so I'm just on my very last one. So I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to do a chain and cinch it down. I don't want it to get mistaken for a stitch. And now I'm going to repeat that row by doing a whole row of UK double crochets, which are single crochets in the US. So if you hear me refer to a double crochet and you work in US terms, you'll know that I mean a single crochet. I should have pointed that out at the beginning, but we are just working in UK terms, but I will tell you the difference. Okay, so 1 in each stitch all the way to the end, just as before. I'll pause the video then and catch up with you at the end. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end, just as before, so that's nice and easy. Now, I just need to point out, if you do hear a little bit of sort of knocking or banging at all, that's my partner doing some DIY, so don't worry about that. It's not a knock at the door or anything. So this row is how we do the pattern from now on. And if you want to change colours, you don't change colours on this row, you change it on the next. So I'm going to do the same as before. I'm going to do a chain and cinch it down, and then I'm going to do 1, 2 UK double crochets in the first 2 stitches. So there's, if you look at the row at the bottom, 1, 2, this is the 3rd stitch here. Okay, so I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to drop to that row, and I'm going to go in between that stitch and out the other side. I'm going to yarn over and pull up that loop. Okay, so you want to pull it up, not ridiculously high, but you want to pull it up because you're going to want to work at the same height. So we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're pulling that up so that our stitches remain the same height. Okay, so behind there is the stitch that we would have worked. We leave that alone and we place 1 UK double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And now we're going to go 1, 2, and there's our 3rd stitch. We're going to do that again. We're going to go in between that stitch, out the other side of it, so the whole stitch is on our hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull up our loop. Don't tug it too high, but yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Behind it you'll find the stitch that we didn't work, and then we use The next two are UK double crochets. We're going to repeat that all the way to the end. There's our bottom row, so it's 1, 2, and in between the next one, out the other side, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the other 2, and you can see the unworked stitch behind it, and we're going to do 1 and 2. Okay, so that is the repeat. We're going to do that all the way to the end. Now this is the most, I won't say not difficult, but it's the most difficult row of these drop stitches that we will come to. Okay, from now on it will be easier, and I'll show you that when we get to it. But I want you to go all the way to the last 3 or 4 stitches, and I'll catch up with you once you get there. Okay, so we've been doing that all along. I've done my 2, so now I need to do my very last into that stitch there, my last of these drop stitches, and we're going to just place 2 in the last 2 stitches, just how we did 2 in the first 2, and that is going to be our colour change. So I'm going to stop there with the 2 loops on my hook. Now if you were going to alternate colours, you can leave that on and just bring the yarn up with you, which is what I did on this. Okay, I'll show you how that looks. So you do get a little bit of that colour showing on that white edge. And if you're going to, maybe you're doing a blanket or something, and you're going to put a border around this edge, then that won't matter because you will cover it. But if it's going to bother you that there will be some pink or whatever colour you're doing showing on your other alternative colour, like this in my case white, then carrying the yarn up the side is not for you. Okay, especially if you're not putting a border on anything. So what we do now then is we're bringing our other colour. If it wants to come off, that is. Okay, so I'm going to cut this, which is why I had those annoyingly noisy scissors. Okay, so I'm going to just hold on to that with my finger at the back, bring in my new colour and finish that stitch in the new colour, and I'm going to do a chain, pull it very like down low, cinch it down. Okay, so now if you want you can get rid of those ends and tie them in, or you can sew them in, but if that does get a little baggy you can just tug it down and keep it nice and tight, you know, what's the word, not baggy. Okay, so now on this row we are going to do 1 UK double crochet in every stitch along. So this is kind of starting our repeat pattern then. With those first 3 rows we're getting the foundation of it. Now this is going to be the repeat from now on. So 1 in each stitch all the way to the end. Okay, so I'm going to pause it and I'll catch up with you once I get to the end. Okay, so I'm all the way to the end. I've got my last one to go into, and I'm going to do my chain and pull it down. And now we're turning our work and we have our post stitches there, the nice drop down stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our 2, just as the same as we did before, 2 UK double crochets to start, and then we're going to yarn over, and this time we're going to go round the back of this stitch and yarn over and pull up, and we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're doing our front post stitch into this previous front post stitch and drop stitch if you want to call it that. So there you can see your unworked stitch behind. We're going to do 2 UK double crochets, and then we're going to do exactly the same in this one here. So we're going to yarn over, go round through that stitch, so around the whole stitch is on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull up our loop, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we're going to do 1, 2, and then we're going to do the same with this one, and that is our repeat all the way to the end. And if you get confused as to which one you've worked and which one you haven't, if you pull this aside, you will see your unworked stitch behind, so you know this is the one you go into. But you soon get used to it in any case. Okay, we're going to do that all the way to the end of the row. Might as well stay with you as I'm almost there. Oh, nearly yarned over. Go behind that one. I really love the look of this stitch, and in cotton it is just so nice. Okay, so 1 in the next 2 stitches. Get that in there. I tied that in just a little loose knot so that it wouldn't come undone or anything while I was doing this tutorial. So now we're going to turn, excuse me, turn our work, and I'm going to do my chain and pull it down, and I'm going to place 1 UK double crochet in every single stitch all the way along. So those 2 rows are now our repeat. So and if we wanted to change colour, this is the row we change colour on. The UK double crochet all the way to the end. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video then, and I will catch up with you once I get to the end of this row. Okay, made it all the way to the end. Do my chain, pull it down. But hang on a minute, that made that very loose. There we go. Very tight, I mean. So, excuse me, bear with me a sec. Sorry about that. A little croaky. So those 2 rows are the repeat of this. So what I'm going to do now is, because you've seen how it's done, I'm just going to make a few more rows, or a few more pattern rows. So obviously 2 rows form the pattern. But I'll just get a little section of this orange, and I will come back and show you what it looks like, rather than keep going to the end, to the end. You've seen how the stitches work now. So we do, this row is the row we change colour on if we want to, so that we get a nice row of our colour before we drop. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I'll make some more of the pattern and come back and show you how it's looking. Okay, so I think this looks really lovely in cotton, because it seems to open this up a little bit more, where it kind of more ribs together with acrylic. I guess it's just an optical illusion, but it really looks like there's more stitches there. So we're going to just do one more colour change, and I just want to show you how lovely this looks with just one more. So I'm going to pull up my loop. It does set it off really well. Holding on to that colour, I'm going to finish the stitch and do my chain and cinch that down. I will just tie these ends once I've made an end, that is, because I don't want them to get baggy and ruin the look of it. And if it were a piece of work, I would tackle those at the end. Okay, so we'll ignore those, we'll turn our work, and we are going to do our whole row of UK double crochets, because as I said, this is the row where we change colour. All right then, I will pause this and catch up with you once I get to the end of this row. Okay, so I've reached the end of the row. Again, I'll chain and pull it down. And this is now what it's going to look like if you were maybe framing your work with the colours. I think that looks really, really nice. I discovered this on my crochet along, as I said, and I really loved it. So now we're just going to do our pattern row, exactly the same as we have been. But one thing I will say is, I think if you can imagine if this was your last row, you'd done a few rows of pattern, I think it looks nicer if you finish on this row than if you finish on the double crochet row. For some reason, I just think it does look nicer. But when you come to finish this, you will need, I hope to get the yarn, Tracy. You will kind of, if you were just framing it, you have this extra row at the bottom there. So you might want to do that one last double crochet row. But I just feel like the stitch pattern looks nicer if you finish on this particular row. Okay, so I shall, well, I won't pause it, we're nearly there, aren't we? We might as well just stick with it and finish this together, because this will be kind of the last row, although I will probably just do that one last row to show you. Might as well put that on there so you can see what it would look like, and then you can judge better which one you think is the best one to end on. Nearly there. This is lovely yarn to work with. I'm really impressed with this yarn. I bought all these yarns for my cow, my picnic blanket crochet along. Okay, so that is how lovely it looks when you frame it. But as I said, you've got this row here. Unless you did that foundation row in a totally different colour, then I feel like it does say you're missing a row, you've got to do it. But that is how it looks ending on this row. Let's turn our work and do one whole row of UK double crochets, and you can then compare it. Okay, it'll be boring to watch this going all the way to the end just as before, so I will pause the video and come back to you once I've done that. Just ignore the ends. Okay, so there we are. That's what it looks like finished off in that row. So I love this stitch a lot, I really do. So as I said before, ignore those ends. If this were a piece of work, I would have worked those in and got rid of them. But because it was just a swatch to show you, I didn't do that. But yeah, I think maybe this row here might look nicer if you ended off the previous row and started again and worked it so that it is the right side facing. What I'll do is I'll undo that row and I'll do just that and come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, I've done that. It doesn't really look a great deal of difference, only that you've ended and begun on the right side facing. So it does look a little nicer, I think, because it is that right way. But that's it. That's my bar stitch. I hope you enjoy that. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye for now. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to CrochetRocks. Tracy here, and I'm going to show you how to do the bead stitch, which is a stitch I actually really like. I just love the way this kind of lays. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways. The first three sections were done in the traditional way, and this last part was done in a kind of an adapted way to give you more space between them. So it's ever so easy. It looks difficult, but it really isn't. And it reminds me of little Tasmanian devils or little beehives. So it's really cute stitch, good for texture. So I'm just going to clear all this away, and when I come back, I'll be ready to show you how to do this stitch. Okay, won't be a second. In the meantime, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Okay, so I'm going to use this. It's a DK weight yarn. It's a nice thick DK though, and I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook. If you're doing this for a project, you will need darning needles and scissors. In the description box there is a link to show you where you can get any of the items that I'm using today, even the wall genie. Okay, so this is done with a multiple of 2 plus 1 stitch. Okay, so that's ever so easy. You just make a slip knot any way you normally would make yours. Actually, that's a long tail I don't really need because it's just a swatch. And we're going to make multiples of 2. So any length that you want for your project plus 1 chain. And chain is just a yarning over and pulling through, as we all know. So I'm going to pause the video for a second, and once I've got a length of chain, I'll come back and show you how we do this stitch. Okay, as it's just a small swatch, I have done 20 chain. I'm going to do one more, as it says, that is our turning. Now in the second chain from our hook, we're just going to do a UK double crochet, which is a single in the US. So there's our first one, here's our second. Just going to insert and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. Nice and simple. And we're going to do that in every single stitch all the way along. Now, if you wanted a nicer edge, you could have turned and gone through this back bump, but this is just a swatch and I don't always do that, to be honest with you. So, you know, that is just your personal preference. I do have a separate video that shows how to get into the back bumps if you didn't know, but if I can remember, I'll link it at the end. So, nice and simple all the way along. I will pause it for a second and come back once I've done that. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. So as this is a multiple of 2, that's basically any even number. And the only time you need the extra one is for your beginning round for the chain and to go into this foundation row. So if you were making any kind of sampler blanket or you wanted to put it on as a border to anything, then all you need to know is you just need an even number of stitches and you can use it. So going to turn the work then. I'm not going to chain or anything. I'm going to do the stacked UK double crochet or a stacked single in the US. And I'm going to do that by going into that very first stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. And then in this one bar at the side here, I'm going to reinsert my hook, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. So basically at the end you can see 2 chain, but it's just not skinny like a chain would be. So now I'm going to do a UK treble, which is a US double crochet in this next stitch. So if I say treble crochet, you'll know I mean a US double if you follow in US terms. And if I say stack, you'll know which stack I mean. If it's a stack in the UK, it's the stack double, and in the US, a stacked single. So it won't be confusing. I'm just going to mention the UK terms from now on. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to make a UK treble, which is a yarn over and insert, yarn over and pull up a loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 of them and then yarn over and pull through the other 2. And now we're going to make the bead. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go between these stitches and we're going to put our hook in there, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we want it to come up nice and tall. We're going to yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull it up to the same height. We're going to yarn over and go back in and yarn over and pull it up to the same height. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all but the last one. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through those 2. So basically you're yarning over and pulling up a loop 3 times. And then you want to go through all of the loops except for the last one. Okay, so now we're going to skip 1 stitch. You can see this is the one where our work comes out. So that's the skip. And we're going to do another UK treble in that next stitch. And then we're going to do the same to that one. So we're going to yarn over, go between those 2 stitches, yarn over and pull up nice and tall. And then we're going to yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up nice and tall, yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up nice and tall. And again, we're going to go through all of those except the last one. Then we'll yarn over and go through the last two, skip one and go into the next with a UK treble. And then, you've guessed it, we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to yarn over between those stitches, yarn over, pull up nice and tall, yarn over, back through, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, back in, yarn over, pull up. And then we're going to go through all of them except for the last one. And we're going to go through the last two. Okay, so that is our repeat all the way along until we get to the last few remaining stitches. So I will pause the video then and I'll catch up with you once I've got to my last few stitches, and I'll show you how we end the row. Okay, so I have a few stitches remaining. So in this one, I'm going to do my last one of this row. It does help if you pull it this way when you're doing this stitch. So I'm going to skip one and do a UK treble in my last stitch and try and get through the two loops. There we are. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work, but before we do, we'll have a little look, make sure that they all look quite nice, because sometimes if it looks like a beehive where it's small at the bottom and tall at the top, you may have not been pulling up consistently. So it does help if when you're pulling up your loops you keep them nice and consistent. So I'm just going to chain one and pull it down. You don't have to do that, but in my first stitch I'm just going to do a UK double crochet, and then I'm going to go into my, well, it's a bit tight, but I need to go into my first stitch. Well, that's actually not the tight one, is it? There's the tight one, and then into the next one. So basically each bead has two stitches, which is fine because you've skipped one, so you need to go into both of those stitches, into there and then into the one where you pulled through the two. So that was where you pulled through all of them, and that was where you pulled through two. So we're just going to do that all the way along. Nice and simple. I'll stay with you on this round, big row. Why is it when it's a row, I always call it a round? And then when I'm doing a square, I'll say row, when it quite clearly is a round. It's just one of those mysteries of life. Okay, so we're nearly there. Might as well just stick with it. Okay, nearly there. When you get to the end, you're going into this one, and then you must remember to go into your very last one. And now we'll turn, and we're going to repeat this row again. So if you, just to refresh your memory, the first one is my stack, and then one into the next stitch, UK treble crochet. And then we're going to yarn over, go between those, and see what I mean. If you pull it to the side, your work, it's easier to kind of do that. Pull through all of those except for the last one. So you've got two, and then pull through both of those, skip one into the next. So we're going to repeat that row all the way along. Skip one into the next. Okay, I'll pause that then, and once I have got all the way to the end of this row, I will catch up with you and I will show you how to complete the row again, just in case you've forgotten. Okay, so I'm all the way to the end. Now, even if sometimes when you have pulled up nice, you just pull those down a little bit to make them nice and even, and they do kind of all line up nice and evenly. So once you've got to your last couple of stitches, one in the last one. Okay, so this time around, where's my swatch? There it is. Remember I said that I'll show you how to do this slightly different. Well, these 3 pattern rows, which is like 6 rows, were done this way, and that's how it looks. It's nice, it's nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to show you how to get a little bit more space between them. That there is a little bit of yarn that didn't take the dye, so just ignore that. But yeah, okay. So we're going to turn, and we're going to do our first stitch as normal. So we're going to go into our first stitch, and then instead of going into the small one, you go into the space. So then we've got 1 in the bead, 1 in the space, 1 into the bead, and 1 into the space. Okay, we just keep doing that all the way to the end. Nearly didn't go into the space there. I'll stick with you because it's not very far. Okay, so we're nearly there. We've got 1 more left. So we go into our bead. Mustn't forget to go into the space and then into our last stitch, which is that stack. And as you can see, it pulls them apart just that little bit. I mean, they are apart anyway because you've skipped one, but it just makes them a little bit more defined. So it depends what look you're going for. If you want them kind of nice and close, then those 3 rows, the way I showed you in the beginning. But if you want them further apart for any reason, then by going into the space, you create that little bit of distance between. It's not massive. But that's it. So that's how to do the bead stitch, and you just carry on repeating rows 1 and 2 until, well, actually it's rows 2 and 3 because the first row we started on a UK double crochet, but in a way it is still row 1 and 2, isn't it? So yeah, that's it. That's the repeat, and I think it's a really lovely stitch. So yeah, okay. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to CrochetRocks. Tracy here, and this is another stitch tutorial. This one is called the Even Moss Stitch, and it's quite a nice texture. This is made with a DK weight yarn, but if you made it with an Aran weight or above, it would be even more textured, obviously, but pretty good for most projects, especially if you do make scrubbies. Now it looks exactly the same on both sides, well, more or less, and it's ever so easy. So I'm going to show you how to do that now, but a quick word that I made this swatch using this yarn, which I thought was going to be really nice, but it was a one from Yarnsmiths, a DK, and it split all the time. So I'm hoping that the swatch that I'm going to make with you now to do this tutorial will look a little bit better than this one. It might, I think sometimes it depends on the yarn you're using as to kind of how it really looks, and I've not been very impressed with this yarn, I have to say. So I'm going to use this one now, which is a Women's Institute Premium Acrylic, and in this colour. So just while I settle this up, I'm going to pause the video for one moment. But if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're watching me on TikTok, don't forget to follow. I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to use a 4.5mm crochet hook, and it's only a swatch, so I'm not going to bother, but you would need, if you're making something, your darning needle and scissors. But as it's just one colour that I'm going to do this with, you're not really going to need much in the way of sewing in ends. So this is made in a multiple of 2. just a multiple of 2, that's it. So I'm going to insert my hook and make my slip knot, which you can do in any way that you want. So it's nice and simple, yarning over and pulling through to make your chain, and just any multiple of 2, which is going to be a little boring to watch me. So I shall pause this then and come back to you once I've got a length to show you how to do this. Okay, so I've made 22, and in the 3rd chain from the hook, so obviously the loop there doesn't count, 1, 2 and 3, I'm going to do a UK half treble. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that chain and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those stitches. Okay, and in the next chain I'm going to do a slip stitch, and in the next one I'm going to do another UK half treble. Now these are called half double crochets in the US, so if I say half treble, that's what I'm referring to if you use US terms. In the next one I'm going to make a slip stitch, and again a half treble in the next one, and in the next one a slip stitch, and that's all we're going to do all the way along our chain. So it's kind of looking up and down like waves. Just going to do that all the way along until we get to the end. So much easier to do without this camera in the way. Okay, so nice and simple, as you've just seen. It does curl a little bit because it is kind of a tight little stitch. You can always try, if you want, using a larger hook size. This does seem like quite a generous strand, this yarn, compared to the other one. The thickness of the strand, that looked a bit long, doesn't it? So I'm going to just tighten that up a little bit. Yeah, it does seem like a thicker strand of yarn than the one that I was using. However, it is a DK. Just that some are thicker than others, which is annoying but true. So we're nearly at the end. We're going to do our last 2, 1 half treble, and the last stitch will always be a slip stitch, and that is how it's looking. Okay, so we're going to turn our work, and I'm going to do 1 chain and pull it down because I don't want to mess it up with a stitch. Now in our first stitch, which is our slip stitch, we're going to make a UK half treble crochet, and in the next stitch, which was a half treble, we're going to slip stitch. Okay, and we're going to carry on. Next stitch will be a half treble, and the next stitch will be a slip stitch, and we're going to do that all the way to the end. And every single row, our first stitch will always be a half treble, and our last stitch will always be, whoops, it does help to take it with you, but it will always be a slip stitch. And that's how it's looking now. So it's getting a little bit of a crinkly and, well, quite a bumpy vibe going on. Didn't go through both loops then. But it's nice and simple all the way to the end. Half trebling in your slip stitches and slip stitching in your half trebles. Just nice and easy. I don't know why, but I find it hard to slip stitch when I've got a camera in between us. Get it done. That's all that matters, isn't it? Okay, so I'll stay with you and we'll see what this looks like at the end of this row because we're nearly there. So this is a very easy stitch. You could easily just lose yourself and, you know, do stuff that you need to do and not really bother looking or anything. So there we are. This is how it looks. I think it looks quite nice. Anyway, going to turn my work, and well, before I do, I'm going to do that chain and pull it low. I do that because I don't do turning chains, but with the half treble, you will get this little bulge come out, like this little loop. Very annoying. So yeah, make sure that that loop's not too tight. First stitch, which is into the slip stitch, as I said before, a half treble, into the half treble, a slip stitch. Did I go through both loops? I'm not sure. There we are. And just keep going all the way across to the end. I might have gone in the wrong part there, you know. Maybe. I'll see what this looks like once we get to the end of our row. So I'm going to pause the video then, because this is a bit boring to watch me doing this over and over again, and I've already done it a couple of rows now. So I shall pause it and catch up with you once I get to the end of this row. Okay, so we've done a whole 2 rows apart from the foundation one, and that's how it's looking. So once again, I'm going to do my chain and pull it down so that it's not there. And again, the first stitch, making sure that that loop is not too tight, although the stitch seems to be. I'm going to do my UK half treble and then my slip stitch and go all the way again to the end of the row doing this. So that's all there is to the stitch, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and get a fair bit of it done, because I feel like it actually feels like it's going a lot easier with this yarn than the other. As I said, the other one's split all the time and it just felt tight here and there because the yarn was splitting. So I want to get a good look and see what this looks like with, well, I think much better yarn. So we'll do that, and I'm almost at the end of this row. So yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll get to the end of this row, we'll have a little look, and then I will pause the video and do quite a few rows and show you the result. Okay, so we're right at the end now. I'll pull that out. Here we are, and that's how it's looking on the other side. So yeah, it's kind of similar, both sides, although not identical. Well, more or less. Well, it is really, isn't it? Anyway, that would be the back, because the front row, for me, always determines which way round it goes. So that's how it's looking after a few rows. I'll pause it then and do some more, and then I'll come back to you and show you how it's looking, and we'll compare it to the other one. Okay, so that's how it's looking, and I think it looks a lot nicer with this yarn. Yeah, absolutely. So that is with a DK. This is also DK, but although it does have a similar look about it, I feel this seems tighter, but it did, as I say, get stuck quite a bit. But I'm really liking this stitch. Now, if you do go ahead and make it in an Aran weight or a chunky yarn, then if you can, put it on my wall, because you can now add pictures to a channel's wall. So share it with us and we can have a look. Okay, so that is the even moss stitch. So I hope you like that one. I will see you guys on the next one. Hi everyone, welcome back to CrochetRocks. Tracy here, and this is a very textured stitch. It's called the ripple stitch. It must have another name, I guess, but I don't know it. But I'm going to show you how to do this. It looks difficult, but it really isn't. It's nice and simple. And I've done this one swatch with, it's a very thick DK yarn. So it gives it an awful lot more texture. So it kind of looks much chunkier. But I'm going to pause this video for a second while I get ready to start this tutorial. And in the meantime, if you've not done so already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button or the notification bell. And if you follow me on TikTok, don't forget to follow. Okay, so I'm using this colour for the tutorial and a 4.5mm crochet hook. But you can use any yarn and corresponding crochet hook, that's fine. You just need scissors and a darning needle if you're making anything, but this is just a swatch. So I'm going to do this now is a multiple of 4. So a multiple of 4 stitches plus 2. Okay, it's just a 1 row repeat. So I'm going to make my chain in multiples of 4. And for that, we just yarn over and pull through. So that's a chain, nice and simple. Okay, so that is my 4. I'm going to pause it and do some more chaining, which if I count, I'm sure it'll be off-putting to you guys. So I'll pause it then and come back to you once I have my length of chain. Okay, so I've done my multiples of 4 and I'm now going to add 2 as the pattern suggests. Okay, so now we are going to go in the second chain from the hook. So there's the first one, here's the second. I'm going to insert, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. That is a UK double crochet or a single crochet in the US. So if I refer to a double crochet and you follow in the US terms, you'll know I mean single. And I'm going to do one of those in every single chain all the way along this row. So I think I did 30 chain in all. So that was 28 plus 2. So I'm going to pause it then because this is a little boring to watch me go all the way to the end. So I will catch up with you once I've done all of my stitches. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end of the row. Okay, so we're going to turn our work, and I'm not going to chain or anything like that, but in my first stitch I'm going to do a stack double crochet, which is in the UK a stack double, but it's a stack single in the US. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both, and then in this one bar at the side here, insert my hook, yarn over and pull up, yarn over and pull through 2. So as you can see, that's like chaining twice, but it's a bit of a fatter stitch. Now in the same stitch, I'm going to do 2 UK trebles. So that is 3 loops on the hook and through 2 and through 2. Again, yarning over and pulling up a loop through 2 and through 2. Okay, so what we're going to do now is skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th one we're going to do a UK double crochet. We're going to chain 3, and in the same stitch we're going to do 3 UK treble crochets. So this is kind of setting up our pattern now. We're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3. In the 4th, we're going to do a UK double crochet. So we're getting these waves. We're going to chain 3. And we're going to make 3 UK trebles in that same stitch. And then skip 3, 1, 2, 3. In the 4th, chain 3 and do trebles. I thought I hadn't yarned over then. It does seem a very strange pattern, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3 in the 4th, a UK double crochet, 3 chain, and now 3 trebles in the same space. So I haven't paused it because it is a little odd, and I thought I would stick with you all the way to the end. 1, 2, 3 in the 4th, a UK double crochet, chain 3, and 3 treble crochets in that next stitch. Skip 1, 2, 3 in the 4th one. We're going to start our pattern all over again. So don't race off thinking that, you know, the next row is the same, slightly different. 1, 2, 3 in the last stitch. All we're going to do is our UK double crochet. So that's how it's looking, like waves at sea. Okay, so we're going to turn our work, and in this first stitch we're going to make our stack. So remember, in the UK it's a stack double, in the US it's a stack single. So if I say stack, you'll know which one I mean, whichever you follow. In the same stitch we're going to place 2 more UK treble crochets. Okay, so this is where our pattern starts. This was really setting it up. But in our 3rd of our trebles, which is 1, 2, 3, so basically the one before the chain spaces, we're going to do a front post double crochet in the UK, front post single crochet in the US, not to get confused with the treble, okay, like the normal front post stitches. So we're going to go in between it. We're going to put our hook this side of it, come out the other. Okay, we're going to yarn over and pull up our loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through both of those. Now we're going to chain 3, and in our chain space make the 3 trebles. Now we're going to skip all of this, and around that 3rd UK treble we're going to do our front post double crochet. We're going to chain 3, and now we're going to go into this chain space and make our 3 treble crochets. Whoops. So we're now making waves the other way. Okay, so we're skipping these. We're going to go into that last treble, do the front post double crochet, chain 3, in this space 3 trebles. And in our last one we're skipping these 2, our front post double crochet, 3 chain, into the chain space with 3 treble crochets. Okay, we're just going to continue almost to the end of the row. We're nearly there, so I'll stay with you. This one. Okay, so we're at our last wave, and all we're going to do, we're not going to do anything around any stitches, we're just going to place 1 in our last stitch. Okay, and that's now our repeat row, but as you can see it's very textured, and I think it also depends on the yarn that you use. When I did this one, you can really see those kind of changes. It seemed a bit thicker, this yarn, and because it's classed as a DK, I used the same hook, but it's a lot thicker and chunkier. So now we're going to turn our work and we're going to repeat that row. So in that first stitch we're going to make the stack and 2 UK trebles in the same place. And then we're going to go over here, do our front post around this stitch. We're going to chain 3, and in that chain space there make our 3 UK treble crochets. I'm going to skip all of these, and in that one at the end we're going to do our front post, chain 3, and in this chain space 3 treble crochets. So that's the repeat. I'm going to do that all the way to the end. So I'm going to this time pause the video because you've seen this a few times, and I'll catch up with you once we get to the end of the row. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. We're not going around this one, we're just going to go into the last stitch with a UK double crochet. So that's our repeat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, rather than end off there, I'm going to do a few more rows and then come back and show you how it looks. Okay, so I've done a few and that's how it's looking. So I think this is a really nice stitch for making things like scarves and infinity scarves, or a shawl, or anything that's kind of interesting texture. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you liked that one, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now.